Good morning, this is Marsupial Gamer, and I'm back. I am going to be making some more videos in the coming days and weeks. I was on a bit of a hiatus and came back and played a few games, but I am going to be posting more videos like this in the future. So make sure that you subscribe if you're not already, and I hope you enjoy my content going forward. So I thought I'd go over this interesting article that was tweeted out by John Trent of Bounding Into Comics. Thank you very much, John. It's an article by Katie Peter at the Mary Sue entitled Young Justice Outsiders is Too Good Not to Step Up on LGBTQ plus Representation. You forgot the A and the 1 and a few other numbers, letters, and symbols, Katie. You bigot. My God, I don't know how she can live with herself. But this article actually is quite insane. And as much as we may joke, it actually does point to the conclusion that I came to, that Katie Peter is in fact a bigot, and I'm not using that word lightly. I'm not joking. She is a heterophobic bigot. So let's go through this a bit. I'm not going to read all of it, but we'll read some passages. I'll try to keep this as short as possible, but this is going to be a bit long, unfortunately. So she goes into a description of the show, and she actually gives it praise, and then describes the main cast consisting of 6 characters. But the show also includes revolving additions to the main team, recurring side characters, and steady appearances from almost the entire Justice League. But I'll get back to that in a moment. She continues, the one thing the original seasons consistently dropped the ball on was LGBTQ plus representation. This struck me as sort of odd the whole time I was watching, as the rest of the show is fairly inclusive. It seemed almost to go out of its way to demonstrate heterosexuality in its protagonists as often as possible. Now let me back up just a bit. She made it clear early on in this article, and I would encourage you all to read the whole thing. I'm actually going to leave a link to an archive of the article so that you don't have to give this site more traffic. I would encourage everyone watching this to read the article on the archive from the link below. And she admits that she did not watch this show when it originally came out back in, I believe, 2011. Something like that, 2011. It had 2 seasons. It ran from 2011 to 2013, and then apparently was canceled, but it's been brought back for a 3rd season 6 years later. She was not interested in this show, this author. She did not watch it when it first came out, and I suspect that she merely binge watched the first 2 seasons simply in order to write this article, and then skipped, just based on the lack of knowledge she apparently has of the characters and their character arcs throughout even the 3rd season. I believe she skipped the first 11 episodes and went straight to episode 12, which she focuses on in this article. Now, I watched the original 2 seasons when they first came out. I'm not quite up to episode 12 in season 3, but I went ahead and watched it anyway. And now might actually be a good time to let you know there will be a few spoilers in this. I have to talk in detail about this episode and some of the relationships of the characters, so I apologize, but there are going to be spoilers in this video. So she goes on, by the end of season 1, there were 2 established heterosexual couples on the team, despite really very little chemistry between those involved. That's just false. Anyone who's watched the first 2 seasons knows there were 2 relationships that had I would say a normal amount of chemistry. In fact, there was quite a bit of sexual tension between Superboy and Miss Martian right from the very beginning. And she goes on, and so some of her assertions here are just plain false, and I can only chalk it up to this author not, or this writer not understanding how normal human relationships of any type actually work. The remaining two characters were both boys, so suitable read female. Well, yes, because those two characters are straight, so they would be attracted to females. That's what happens when you're a heterosexual. If you're a male, you're attracted to members of the opposite sex when you're straight. Okay, it's just a fact. Partners had to be found for both, and they closed out the season each kissing a girl they barely knew. Well, I won't get into that too much, but okay. But they shared kisses with members of the opposite sex that they found attractive. Oh well, not a big deal to anyone watching who enjoys the show and is invested in these characters. Because they're straight, get it? Okay, just making sure. She's very, very snarky and seems to be quite upset and, triggered by these relationships. So she goes on, and here's where she says, I began the new season after a multi-day binge of the originals. She didn't watch the originals when they were first out. I did so with excitement approaching that of an original fan. Well, excitement for what, though? Excitement for really what happens in the show, or excitement hoping that 6 years later that they would shoehorn in some diversity that didn't make any sense, like as comic books tend to do. Well, unfortunately, that didn't happen. And she admits this new addition to delivers. It is a great show. I enjoyed watching it. I encourage people to watch it. The plot so far is intriguing, exciting. Cameos, etc., etc. And then she drops this bombshell, this incredibly bigoted point. What's with all the heterosexuality? Now imagine a show that was completely, all the characters were homosexual. If that's what the show wants to be, I might be interested in that show if it was about superheroes and the relationships were kind of side subplots like they are in the show, and they evolve naturally and normally. If I were to say, what's with all the homosexuality, wouldn't you find that quite a bigoted and just bizarrely hateful statement? That just hit me. I can't believe that somebody could be that much of a bigot. It's insane. And then she goes on to just apparently live in a fantasy land where just reality doesn't seem to register with her. That's not a new question for any media, really, and it's one that mainstream media still seems to be afraid of. Yeah, no, that's just not true. I mean, clearly she's not watched Supergirl, she's not watched Arrow, she's not watched, I don't know, Modern Family, or any of hundreds of shows that have portrayed people of all different types and sorts, different sexes, different races, different sexualities. It's all out there. It just happens to not be on this show, and that's okay. Clearly she doesn't like this show, and that's okay too. She just needs to go watch a different show. I mean, it's not the show for her. It's easy to feel exploited for entertainment when most mainstream media that's LGBTQ plus friendly is either a dramatic foray into gray. Okay, so now she's even complaining about the way in which they do it. It would be refreshing to see that in superhero media, but executives insist that there isn't any room for it. Parallel dimension. That's not reality. Superhero media is awash with inclusion of LGBTQ characters. In fact, she admits that. What few LGBTQ plus led comics there are, there are. Frankly, there are lots. Get canceled relatively quickly. And that's because they don't sell. And frankly, they just don't sell because the writing is terrible. It really has little to do with the characters being gay, for instance, but because the comics are very poorly written. And these are companies that have to make a profit or they go out of business. they're not going to sell 100,000 copies of a comic and be like, well, that was a success. Let's cancel it. They just don't sell. And these characters' sexualities get erased from their. Again, my God, this is not reality. There are plenty of different shows, superhero shows. Like I said, Supergirl features a transsexual character. There are gay characters in Supergirl and Arrow and I believe The Flash and plenty of other superhero shows. And then, yeah, it's exhausting. And at this point, it's just improbable. No, it's not. When we're talking about a show where there's really only 6 main characters, it's entirely likely that none of them will be gay. And you know what? They're just not. And that's okay. If one or more had been gay, that would have been okay too. But they're not. It doesn't mean anything bad. They're just not gay. Oh well. If you're upset by that, maybe you should just watch a different show. It's not that exhausting to just change the channel. But yeah, she gets into, basically she says, remember that huge Young Justice cast I mentioned earlier? No, it's not huge. There are side characters that come in and out. They don't explore relationships between characters that are in the show for one episode. It's just not going to happen. There's really 6 main characters. So when she says some of them have to be gay, okay, yeah, maybe some of the side characters are gay, but they just didn't get into it because it was like an evil villain that they defeated in 30 minutes. Okay, whatever. Or don't mean to equate to that, or it's a friend, a helpful character that came in and it never came up. Yeah, anyway. One of the final episodes released so far, and I really suspect that this is the only episode that she watched of this season. So far was Expedition into the Mind of Beast Boy, a character historically used as comic relief despite his surprisingly dark personal background. Okay, fair. This episode really took advantage of those conflicting elements of the character, delivering a wacky and somehow still emotional episode that moved the plot of the season forward significantly. Yeah, sort of. Then, right at the end of this largely successful episode, I would say completely successful episode, I loved it. I liked it a lot. And like I said, I skipped ahead. I'm going to have to go back and watch. I didn't quite understand some of what was going on, but I still like the episode. They cut to 3 different straight pairs sharing kisses. Now that's just disingenuous. She acts like it's just out of the blue, and now we're just going to have three couples kissing. That's not what happened, and this is where hopefully this video won't get too long, but I'm going to go into, this is where there's going to be a bit of spoilers, but I'm going to go into some detail so that you can understand that this was all perfectly natural, perfectly normal, and I would never have thought anything of this if it weren't for this article. The first kiss was between Beast Boy and his girlfriend, and was mostly earned by the events of the episode, and that's totally fine. So she says that as if it's like, well, yeah, heterosexual couples kissing is really gross and disgusting, and I hate it, but all right, I guess I could put up with this. It's kind of like saying, well no, I don't hate heterosexuals. I have heterosexual friends. So, yeah, that makes me not a bigot, right? No, she's clearly just, okay, fine, I guess. Could have a gross man and woman kissing. Ew. Okay, so here's what happened. Beast Boy gets stuck essentially in a coma. He goes into a virtual reality universe, and then it sort of takes over his mind. And Queen Perdita, his girlfriend, discovers him in this state. And she's naturally quite distraught. And so much so, she calls the paramedics, she calls 911. She can't get him to wake up. She doesn't know what's going on. She calls Superboy and Miss Martian, who are in a relationship, and they can't figure out what's wrong with him. They can't figure out what to do. And, in the meantime, he's living out this virtual reality world in his mind, and eventually everything gets resolved, and he wakes up on his own. Now, as someone who is, if you're in a relationship, if you have a partner who you love, who you find to be in a coma inexplicably, and you're very worried and you don't know what to do and they won't wake up, and then they suddenly wake up, you're going to be everyone knows this, right? I mean, this is pretty obvious stuff, but I'm trying to explain this as if I'm talking to this author who doesn't seem to understand how humans work. But you're going to be relieved, and you're going to kiss. And okay, great, thanks. I'm glad that she's giving them permission to be affectionate after this traumatic event. So, yeah. The second was in response to the first and was wholly unnecessary and also genuinely weird. Also completely insane and false. So, as I said, Queen Perdita calls 911 as well as Superboy and Miss Martian, who have frankly their relationship has grown since they met in the first season. And here's where the spoiler is. At the beginning of season 3, they get engaged. They are engaged to be married. In fact, in this episode, it shows her ring. There's a close-up of the ring on her finger. They are engaged, an engaged couple. They are also friends with Beast Boy. They were also very upset and scared when they found that he was unconscious and unable to be woken up, and upset for his girlfriend because she was upset. And when he woke up, everyone was relieved. They saw them kiss. They kind of looked at each other. They can actually read each other's minds. And they were like, yeah, thank goodness it all worked out. And they kissed. It was 100% natural, 100% normal. Again, you never would think anything of it if you weren't a ridiculous heterophobic bigot. This is absolutely an insane response to what happened in that scene. Then, I'll read the next sentence. The third was completely unprompted and took place between two characters who weren't even in a relationship and who, aside from one semi-shared trauma, really had nothing in common. So here, I wonder if she even remembers their names. She's talking about Halo and Geoforce, who, again, have been working together and throughout the season, and in this episode, we're talking together alone outside. And I've kind of been wondering, like, they're going to get together, right? They're going to get together. And yeah, it was kind of a natural progression at the end of the episode. Showed these two kissing. It showed, actually, I have this. It showed these two kissing, Superboy and McGann, Miss Martian. This was actually a picture from season 1, but yes, it showed them kissing. Sorry to trigger on anyone watching this. And then it was kind of a fade out to the couple that were talking outside, and guess what? They were kissing. And artistically, it was quite nice. It was, a natural, interesting fade, and it was like, yeah, they got together finally. Like, I knew they would. It was kind of obvious because they were growing closer and closer. They were having a kind of an intimate conversation, and this author seems to think that, okay, or it doesn't seem to realize that, well, many relationships do begin with a kiss. It was kind of like a first date. They were alone together, and then they kissed, and, well, guess what? They're in a relationship now. And frankly, Halo and Geoforce got into a romantic relationship in the comic book. This is all based on. So this was all perfectly natural and normal stuff. And guess what? Yes, they also shared a trauma. And, well, that can bring two people closer together. None of this is a surprise to anyone who understands how humans work and how human relationships develop. Again, she goes into, oh yeah, I guess Beast Boy had a really tough time in that episode. I guess you could kiss his girlfriend and then go on a date or something. Get out of my face because it's gross. This article is really despicable. The other two were rushed, unprompted, and helped the plot and the involved characters in exactly 0 ways. Well, you don't know that. You don't know that at all. I mean, first of all, the one couple was engaged. It's perfectly natural and normal for them to kiss. Frankly, they didn't even need a reason. They shouldn't need a reason. I'm sure they don't. Normal engaged couples kiss for no reason sometimes. And you have no idea what additional plot lines may develop between Halo and Geoforce. They might, there might be some drama where one of them gets in trouble, and the fact that they are now romantically involved could add some drama and some tension to future plot lines. She doesn't know if it's gonna. Plus, who cares? They got into a relationship. It's interesting. It's interesting to me. It's interesting to anyone who actually cares about these characters. So, going on, now almost every main character is in a heterosexual relationship, regardless of whether or not it makes sense. Well, you know what? It made sense to me. It makes sense to pretty much, I think, anyone who actually has been paying attention and didn't like half pay attention while binge watching the first two seasons and then just like skip ahead to episode 12 of season 3. And then she goes really off the deep end. Given that it's even hinting at a budding relationship between original series regular Artemis and the father of her niece, at this point, I'm really just hoping for no further weird implications about the space bug and the female semi-sentient Martian spaceship. I'm betting she can't remember the name of that character. The space bug is called Forager, just to let you know. If Outsiders tries to sell me on a heterosexual spaceship, I'm going to riot. So essentially, she's equating heterosexual relationships with incest and some sort of romantic relationship with a spaceship. So yes, apparently normal heterosexual relationships between a man and a woman is as strange and disgusting and nauseating and triggering to this author as incest and, I guess, sex with a spaceship. Well, that's very nice. Interesting. Honestly, this is even more frustrating because it's just too good of a show. You don't care. You don't care about this show. Yes, you have to admit that it's good because anyone watching the show can tell that it's damn good. But you don't really care. Just change the channel. Go watch Supergirl. Or go watch something else entirely. I doubt this person even cares about superhero shows at all, or comics for that matter. But, leave the show alone. Those of us who've been watching it from the beginning and were very excited about season 3 like it the way it is. Leave us the hell alone. Go away. Watch something else. Change the channel. This show is not for you. But she says, all I can do is sit patiently and hope they step up, i.e., hope that they change it to meet my desires and my needs and ignore the existing fan base that, frankly, were excited about it enough to bring it back for a third season after 6 years. And then we get the very unsurprising short bio. Katie Peter is a writer and enthusiastic nerd based in... Oh, sorry, I just noticed that. Phoenix, Arizona. Way too close to me. Her skills include reading comic books. That's not a skill, and frankly, press X to doubt. Talking about them in exhausting detail, but apparently not knowledgeable detail. And irritating her cat. Yes, I'm definitely not surprised. Anyway, this was quite long, but I really did feel like it was important to go over the article and explain why these relationships are absolutely perfectly normal and fit into the story of the show. They've all developed quite naturally. Nothing was shoehorned in. The writing is quite good. The show is quite good. Even Ms. Peter admits that. And as long as you're not a bigot, if you like Teen Titans, I think you'll love Young Justice. Young Justice Outsiders. It's been a great season so far. I'm looking forward to watching the rest of the episodes. I'm about halfway through. And go check it out. Again, I put a link in the description to the archive of this article. If you want to take a look, please. I would encourage people not to comment on this article or contact this author in any way. However, while I'm here, I'm going to take a look at Dissenter, my new favorite browser plugin. I encourage everyone to get to Center through Gab to see, oh, what do you know? There's a comment. And the comment is quite good. Lol, what a load of horseshit. Why dump on something she really isn't a fan of? This person agrees with me. Oh, right, to score more SJW NPC points. It's obvious. She's not a fan. She didn't watch it. She watched it just for this article, and like I said, clearly showed no knowledge of any of season 3. Thank you very much for watching. I appreciate it if you made it this far. And if you give this video a like, I'd certainly appreciate that. It certainly helps with the algorithm to bring my videos to the forefront. And if you're not subscribed, please do so. I am Marsupial Gamer, and you can follow me on Twitter at Marsupial Gamer. I will continue to be playing some video games on Twitch. I'm basically going to likely separate out the video games, keep those on Twitch, and in the future live streams related to this sort of content will be on YouTube. And I actually have a channel on DLive. So if you're interested, if you've heard about the deal with PewDiePie on DLive, I do have an account there, and I have streamed to DLive in the past. I'm going to continue to do so. And thanks very much for listening. Have a great day.